This is a special edition of Positively Detroit. Attack on America. Detroit teens respond.
Hello, I'm Greg Russell, and I've been joined here in the studio at Wayne State University by a group of Detroit area teens. Seth Rosenfeld from Birmingham Seaholm High School, Sophia Gutierrez of Catherine Ferguson High, Nathan Humphrey from St. Martin de Porres High, Anna Sahara from Edsel Ford High, and Anna Shao of Renaissance High. Now, welcome to all of you, and thank you all for coming out today and sharing your feelings and thoughts with us. Now, we begin our program with a quick look back at a day that we'll never forget and our first reaction to the devastation.
September 11th, 2001, the day the world stood still and watched in horror as an American tragedy unfolded.
You will remember this day as long as you live.
This is not just an isolated incident in our lives. This is one that will be a marker in our history.
A day that started out like many others, but one that ended in complete disbelief and incomprehensible grief. People around the world witnessed two American icons crumble to the earth, the remains of a smashed and suddenly vulnerable military fortress and the smoldering ashes of a passenger plane. These images burned in our eyes for days, along with tear-streaked faces and thousands of strangers bound together to search for survivors, to search for strength, to search for answers still not found. As the days and weeks ended, so did the hopes of thousands of Americans who would never again see their family members and loved ones. Out of the chaos emerged eerie bits and pieces of final calls. Messages meant for a few became public.
When we were talking to each other, he told me that he loved me.
Out of the dust, heroes of all ages, races, and nationalities surfaced.
Thank you, God bless America!
The world turned to television and radio broadcasts, desperate for more information, for clarity, for understanding. Favorite programs and public events were canceled. For many, religion took on a new meaning. Houses of worship held standing room only. Still reeling from the shock, confused and dazed Americans instinctively knew that our world would never be the same. The once safe and comfortable society that we had all lived in before this moment was gone. An unfamiliar emotion began ripping through our hearts and minds, and the American people were suddenly filled with rage.
Now, that feeling of rage was something that I guess you could say was something that was going across this country. I mean, people were devastated, they were upset by things that were going on, but rage was definitely a big part of that. Anna, how did you feel after you saw the events that happened on September the 11th?
Well, after getting over the shock of what had happened and really actually realizing the effect that it had on our nation and on the people, on the citizens, on our lives, it was, you do feel angry. You feel how dare you come in and disturb our peace? We're America. We're, supposedly invulnerable to this kind of thing, and then you see that gone. And when that security is gone, I think people do rise in, anger that it's no longer there.
Right. Sophia, what about you? Did you have a feeling of rage as well after you found out about the events of the day?
Yes, and I was very shocked, but then afterwards I felt hurt because stuff like this does not happen. And you hear it about other countries that that disasters do happen or terrorists do attack their country, but not America. And right now I still do feel hurt because I'm an American citizen, and it's very shocking. It hurts a lot.
Well, I think rage was part of it, but more than that, I think fear and just shock in general. This generation has never experienced anything like that before. But in terms of rage, I think that a large part of that is just people think, how could this happen just because of how anonymous the attack was? If it had been an attack on an army base or even on a building that was part of the government, that would have, in some people's minds, I think, and even my own, some bit of justification because it was an attack directly on the government. By attacking these innocent civilians that were just on their way to work or in their buildings working, this was just an attack on America in general, not even just the government, but just a random attack on the people itself.
Mm-hmm. Now, Anna, for your feelings, now this is something that happened here in your country. Were you outraged as well? I mean, what were your thoughts? What was the first thing you wanted to do after seeing the attack that happened?
Well, I was very shocked because those people that were in the building were innocent people going and making a living for their family, and for no reason they just, their families' lives changed because not gonna see them anymore because of some, person that wanted to get back for some reason in America.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to go join the army at first, but then I got pretty scared, and I was just angry because I knew people who was inside the building. They got out safe. They didn't have to go to work that day, but I still was scared for them. And I'm scared for everybody because I'm not ready to die.
Now I know,
Yes.
Sophia, we had talked earlier, you had mentioned how you were a member of the ROTC.
Yes.
Now, being a member of the ROTC and the rage that you were feeling that day, what were some of your thoughts? Did you feel like getting back into the ROTC or joining the Army yourself?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I was talking about joining the Marines, and people do say why we're in war right now, and it doesn't matter because, like I said, and I'll say it again, that I am a U.S. citizen and I'm proud of my country, and I felt proud just by wearing the ROTC uniform and saluting to the American flag. And whenever I heard the national anthem, I was very proud. But now when I do hear it, it hurts because I see the plane going straight into the building, and I still have it's a vivid image in my head. And when I do hear the national anthem, it just brings back memories. And till this day, it has a big effect on me, and it'll always have an effect on me forever.
Now, one of the other parts of rage goes on with the way our country reacted. Now, many people at the time, right after the attack, they were ready right then because they were filled with rage to go and attack.
Immediately, everyone assumed it was bin Laden, or I had heard there's another group that had claimed responsibility for it. But I feel like it was important for the government to actually look themselves, and even if we knew from the beginning who it was, because very quickly looking over past records, realizing it was bin Laden, it was important to show that we had taken the time to look through it and develop some type of strategy so that it would work the best. But in general, I'm relatively anti-war. I don't think that we should attack other countries, but in an example like this, I think that really it's important because it's not even a fight over land or something like that, it's a fight over ideals. And the truth is that the people that are attacking us right now just don't like our way of life, and they won't stop doing these types of attacks until democracy and just general American beliefs are gone in general. So I think that it's important to attack it at its root and actually try to get rid of these groups that are fostering these types of ideas throughout the world.
And I think that's what was really making America angry, in a sense, was that, we've been told our whole lives that this is the truth and that this is what you're fighting for, what you're standing for, but we've never actually had to come up against it. And now that, our democracy and our republic is being attacked, it is being questioned and, fought against, that's what's really angering people, is the fact that they want to take it away.
All right, thank you, and I thank you all. Now, how rage turned to fear, that when we return.
I was shocked more at what had happened than I was that terrorists had done it, because I had always expected something like this to happen.
Detroit's a definite target. Auto industry, a lot of money in cars and production in Detroit. I definitely think Detroit's a target.
Welcome back. And we continue now with an up-close look at the aftermath of September 11th and its impact on our psychological well-being.
Terrorism, something that happens in other countries to other people. But this time it hit home, leaving us with more than ravaged buildings and loss of loved ones. This time we are left with a very intimate, personal battle. We all watched the attacks on America in utter disbelief, and every day we continue to feel the aftershock of the greatest tragedy ever to take place on American soil. Not surprisingly, reactions are running rampant. Initially filled with rage, sadness, or grief, one emotion still lingers long after the rubble has been cleared: the fear. Fear for our own safety and for the health and safety of family and friends. Fear of travel, of packages delivered by mail. Getting back to normal routines becomes a challenge. Questions plague our thoughts. Am I safe at school or at work? How will the economy affect my family? Will I have to go to war? Will there be other acts of terrorism? Could I be a victim of a hate crime? How do I protect myself? The daily struggle is daunting. How do we overcome the fear and gain back our feelings of safety, of power, of trust? As a nation, we look to our leaders to ease us into a future of great unknowns, setting down laws and procedures that protect us without infringing on the rights we've fought so hard to win. Patiently we watch as our country inches forward from an atmosphere of fear to one of hope, waiting to prove again, not only to ourselves, but to the rest of the world, that America truly is the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Fear. Now that's something that I'm quite sure gripped all of us. What about you, Seth? Were you afraid at that time, and are you still afraid?
Yeah, I think I was somewhat afraid to the time, like more like shock than fear originally, and later on, especially with this new like anthrax scare and stuff like that, that really just the idea that this is so unprecedented that what seems to have swept everyone is that everyone's just so shocked by it that it will naturally just be like almost transformed into fear when you think we have no idea how to deal with this. Our country has really never dealt with this type of thing before, either on like a governmental level or even on a civilian level.
And Anis, I have a question for you. Now you are a member of the Arab American community. You've been hearing about, of course, all the racial profiling and different things going on. Is there a fear for you and a fear for your family?
Well, yeah, because I know, like, you know that everybody, out there is not like, okay, it's right, it's not all Arabs. Some people want to take their rage out on the Arab Americans. So, like, when you go to the store, I just like, walk with my sister, see if some people, might bother her because she wears a scarf or something. Mm-hmm. But, nobody like ever said anything to us. Everybody's still, been the same, calm about it and everything.
Has anything happened to any members of your family since the attack?
Like, yeah, like my cousins, they live in an apartment building, and they're just a bunch of brothers that live together. Mm-hmm. And then, like, for some reason, the cops just came and started searching their apartment. And they're like, go ahead, even if you don't have a search warrant, because they have nothing to hide.
And what about you, Sophia?
Yes, I do have fear because we live right by Canada, mm-hmm. and there's an Ambassador Bridge, and anybody can just cross over. But now, ever since this happened, it's the security needs to be more tight, more secure, and I don't feel secure in the United States anymore.
Before, thinking that we were so invulnerable and thinking that, well, this could never happen in America. That, we fight our wars on foreign soil. It's never really been at home, and so yes, there's tighter security, but at the same time, we thought we were secure before, and so does that really? That doesn't take all of my fear away. It takes a little bit of it away, but it doesn't calm all of me because, we thought we were on top of things before, and we were proven wrong.
Mm-hmm. Well, when we come back, making the changes necessary to survive a world that no longer makes sense. Stay with us.
I'm Arabic, I'm an Arab American, and I don't feel fear for my safety at all because it's all about personality. When you approach someone, you talk to someone and they like the way you were talking to them and present yourself, then they're gonna like you regardless of what you are or not.
Highlighting the best in our community.
Not surprisingly, the first films made in Detroit were about cars. But Detroit's long history of filmmaking didn't stop there.
If you go out and you really look for filmmakers, you will find them. There are all sorts of people making films here and doing projects.
Positively Detroit salutes Detroit filmmakers for creating a little bit of Hollywood in our own backyard.
Positively Detroit is brought to you by WB20 and CVS Pharmacy.
I'm not going to run and hide from whatever may be out there. I know there's been the anthrax going around, showing up more and more lately, but I'm not going to change my life.
The undeniable truth is, our lives will never be the same. But as a country that values our freedom above all else, we must find ways to survive, and more importantly, to thrive.
Visibly changed is New York City's majestic skyline and the lives of all the families who lost a loved one. Changed is our feeling of national security as the Pentagon, proud symbol of this country's military might, is suddenly made vulnerable. Changed is the way we look at things we used to take for granted. Simple things like getting the mail, air travel, the landscape of our airports, the confidence we once had to move around freely. Also changed are American attitudes, our pride in our day-to-day heroes, firefighters and police officers, our pride in our country, as visible symbols of American patriotism wash over communities in every corner of the nation. For most of us, this tragedy has also been a great unifier, bringing Americans of all ethnicities and ages closer together to talk, to worship, to heal. While for Arab Americans, these changes now raise more questions than answers, more prejudices and lack of understanding, more fear with fewer resolutions. For now, finding ways to cope and survive and even thrive, despite all the changes, remains our greatest challenge.
A lot of things have changed, of course, with the way we look at things, believe in things, and do things in this country. One of the things that may have changed might be the way that we look at certain other Americans, particularly the Arab Americans. What about for you, Anna? Did you know any Arab American families, and how have your views changed, possibly?
I live in a majority of Arab community in Dearborn, and basically, you know, with our friends, our neighbors, and just basically it was just we were afraid that people out of, you know, irrational decisions that they had made on their own would just decide to, you know, hate crimes and all that kind of stuff, and we were just more afraid that they would be affected. Our views really weren't affected. You know, maybe just because I am in that situation, it's more understanding that yes, these are still Americans, they're still part of our nation, and you know, they're on our side, you know,
Right.
and we need to be supportive of them also in this time as war is going on over there as well.
Because I do have a friend that lives in Arabic community, and I did stay with her for a while, and they looked at me like as if I was going to say something negative towards them, and no, you know, I don't feel like that, you know, because I would understand if someone would look at me and accuse me of something that my race did, and you know, I didn't do it. So yeah, it is a change, and they probably do feel hurt, the Arabic people, but no, there's no judgment or anything because it wasn't them. It was the terrorists. So
yeah, I mean, I think it's really important, especially now, for people to realize that you have to be especially open to people of all different types of like ethnic groups or racial groups or anything like that, and realize, especially in this instance, that it wasn't all people of Arab descent that did this, that it was a small group, and that you will find similar factions within all different types of groups, whether it's Christian fundamentalists or Jewish fundamentalists or any type of group, that you're always going to have some type of a group that's pushing the basic ideas to the extreme and using those to hurt others. And that in this case it happens to be the Islamic fundamentalists that actually went through with this. But you have to realize it's not all people of Arab descent or even all Muslims, but you just need to take everyone as who they are and not judge anyone.
And I was just saying, Anis, now once again being a member of the Arab American community, has your family talked about any changes that maybe they have to go through right now, I mean, just to maintain safety?
Well, not really, but like sometimes when I go over to my friend's house and play basketball or football, we say, you know, don't stay out too late because, you know, some people are angry and maybe they might take it out on you.
Another part that changed, like we said, is just our own just general safety. Do you now feel safe when you're out? I mean, just in general.
there is a change in me that I'm more cautious. You know, I did take life for granted, and I was never cautious sometimes, and now I'm more cautious. You know, I look around and I do read the paper when I have time. I do watch the news when I do have time, and just more cautious now.
All right. You know, now we're preparing ourselves to face whatever tomorrow will bring. When we return, we'll face it head on.
This is the first war I've ever been in since I've become of age, so basically it's very scary.
Lives for lives, I mean, what does that accomplish? And especially when you're dealing with people that, I mean, that find dying for their country as an honor, how do you scare them with taking lives? I don't know.
Welcome back. It's been relentless. The tragedy, the changes, the flood of information, assaulting our senses with no clear end in sight. What will tomorrow hold?
And so the twin assault on America's financial and political capitals unfolded in real time, without warning or provocation. And America's outrage, fear, and anxiety became a palatable, living entity. In an instant, a new America emerged, Anger turned into action, galvanizing the world around a common effort to protect the heart and soul of a civilized society. An international coalition was born on the diplomatic front, while on the financial front, efforts continue to starve terrorist groups of their funds. Then finally, a sustained military campaign was launched against the oppressive ruling Taliban regime in the name of freedom and justice. 1 month after the attack on America, while people prayed for innocent lives lost, planes and missiles pounded Afghan targets in a barrage that lit up the night skies.
War has been waged against us by stealth and deceit and murder. This nation is peaceful, but fierce when stirred to anger. This conflict was begun on the timing and terms of others. It will end in a way and at an hour of our choosing.
America declared that the time to protect our future is now. This is our resolution.
Now, resolution is something that we're all looking for. How do we get this over? How do we have an end to this? What can we do to make things better? How do we resolve this problem? Quite sure we all have our own opinions, and this time I'd like to find out what yours are. Seth, what would you think of as a resolution to this whole matter?
I think at this point the best approach to take would just be kind of a two-pronged approach. First of all, just taking military action in Afghanistan and in other countries that are supporting this type of action, but really making sure that we're only hitting government or terrorist targets, making sure that we're not hitting civilians, like for instance like shooting at night or doing things like that, so we can just ensure the safety of civilians that really didn't have anything to do with this. And the second thing is just increasing security in our own country, in airports and train stations, and even all over, just making sure that this type of stuff doesn't continue in our own country, because we have to realize that although this instance may have come from abroad, that there's things like this going on in our own country that we may not know about.
And Anis, what about you? What have you resolved for yourself, you and your family?
Well, I think like it's not right, going over to another country and bombing them, even though it wasn't right, the terrorists hitting America, because innocent people died for no reason. Go and make a living for their family. But I think they shouldn't go back to Afghanistan and just start hitting innocent people. Maybe the president should get together with them and make a like a settlement between both countries, because just hurting other innocent people, like they didn't have nothing. They're just as innocent as the people that died in the World Trade Center.
And Nathan, what are some of the things that maybe you've thought about as far as a resolution to this situation, about just how we can make it a better world all the way around?
I think we should have kept it all peaceful instead of going and bombing them, because how did that make us better than them? We not no better than them. They came over, they killed our people. We can't just go over there and go kill their people. It's just not the right thing to do.
And Anna, now, what type of resolutions have you come up with for yourself about maybe just the way you're even going to change your life, or just the way you'd like to see things changed?
Well, I think that with everything that happened throughout my school, throughout the city, just people I've talked to, that you really see people reevaluating themselves and maybe what their purpose is. A lot of people are kind of searching now that we see life is short. What am I going to do about it? And personally, I think just more resolved that I'm going to make the most of the time that I have, and that as far as the country goes, that we need to be, like Anis was saying, that us killing innocent people because they killed our innocents doesn't make anything better. Two wrongs don't make a right. And we still need to ensure America's safety by showing the rest of the world that we don't stand for this, but in the same time keeping our justice.
This is not a story with an easy ending. America is now caught in the unrelenting grip of events that rocked our world, and we are resolved to bring back the safety and security that they tried so unsuccessfully to take away. Today you met Detroit youngsters whose courage, wisdom, and pride symbolize the very thing that make this country so great. We salute them, and we pray for all the young men and women who are at this very moment risking their lives thousands of miles away to protect us all. Thank you for joining us.
Special thank you to Wayne State University's Education Technology Services Department for their partnership and support in production of this program.
America, America.
This has been a special edition of Positively Detroit, Attack on America. Detroit Teens Respond. Positively Detroit is a production of WB20, a Granite Broadcasting station.